We got two title fights coming up at UFC 295 here in a matter of moments.
America.
Live from Madison Square Garden.
Welcome to America.
The President will be here to witness all of it. Four of the very best fighters in the world set to take their cracks at light heavyweight and interim heavyweight gold, respectively. We move over to pay-per-view shortly. Thank you all for being here for the prelim coverage.
Notice who's behind him. You see who's behind him?
Main card for UFC
3 people behind him. Standing next to Kid Rock. You know who's behind him? Let's keep going. There's another one, too.
295, live on ESPN Plus pay-per-view from Madison Square Garden. Starts right now.
The one who's behind him. Let me look right at you. This is important. The guy who's behind Trump is an unsung hero, but has become a huge hero. We prophesied about it. We talked about it. It was a big voice over the last year and a half here, and that is Tucker. A lot of people are speculating, and even 45 himself came out and said he'd be really open to having Tucker as a VP. Now, will it go there? I don't know. But one thing I do know is the Spirit of the Lord is not done with America, not done with you, not done with your nation, not done with God's people. And in the middle of darkness, light always rises. Now, I've had a lot of people say, well, you can't, you guys who worship 45 or you worship this, you worship that. Look, I worship Jesus. That's it. I worship Jesus. I don't put any faith in any political voice, but I am here to tell you, I still think the best option we have with all the clown show that's out there right now, the clown show, the freak show that's going on, and all the bought and paid for packaged, falsified individuals that are out there, I still believe 45 is still the great disruptor. He's still the one that God has picked and chosen. And listen, we're not voting for a pastor. You understand? We're looking for someone that can look at other dictators in the world, and stand up as a clear-eyed, clear-minded leader and look at world dictators and say, how about you close your skull cave, Skippy? We got some things to do. And they really begin to lead. And we need leadership. Now, there's a lot of criticism where people say, oh, this person's the Antichrist. That person's the Antichrist. If you think that this guy is the Antichrist or you think somebody else is the Antichrist, you got to read your Bible. The Antichrist is going to induce years of peace. And I'm telling you, the way he's going to operate, he's going to move in signs and miracles and all kinds of crazy stuff that begins to happen. And he's going to unite every world religion, and he's ultimately going to make them bow down and worship him as God. That's not what we're looking at here in any leader we see right now. There's no person that's saying they're God. Well, there was one guy that kind of rhymes with Macron that I was a little concerned about there for a moment, and could still be, but whatever, French fries, But you're looking at some of these things, and you got to recognize that what's going on in the world and what's happening around the world is when this time comes, the man of sin will appear suddenly on the world stage. He won't be drifting around and kind of glad-handing, and then all of a sudden he kind of, hey, by the way, I'm now the global leader. He's going to suddenly appear, the Bible says. He'll step up from behind the veil, from behind a curtain, and appear and fix everything, and the whole world will be wowed with him. He'll solve the Middle East conflict. He will cause everybody to come into peace, and everybody's going to think he's the greatest thing ever for about 3.5 years. And then he's going to flip and get real nasty. Real nasty. And nobody on the ticket or anywhere else in the world fits that bill right now. Nobody. When this individual shows up, it's going to be whatever. I mean, some people also argue, and there's scriptures to back it up, that they have no use for females. And so therefore they suggest maybe that it's part of that persuasion, the yoo-hoo persuasion. And they got all this stuff that they think maybe they might be from the East persuasion. They might be part of the Vatican. People don't know. I mean, there's a lot of things you can look at, and all of them have very serious threads of truth in it. Here's what I want to say. I don't think we fully know yet. I think it'll be a system and a man. I think a lot's coming, but it ain't these guys. But here's the reason I showed the clip in the first place. The reason I showed you the clip is because you need to know that hope is still here. Hope is still here. In 2015, the Lord sent me to 45 Tower, okay? 45 Tower, the tower. I was there. And the Spirit of the Lord began to speak to me, began to talk to me. And I said, Lord, is America going down? Is it over for this nation? Is this the end? And I'll never forget the Spirit of the Lord answered me because I said, is this guy going to be president? Should I be believing for that? Do I get to announce it? And he said, I've not graced you to know that. I told Lance, though. Really? I was there with Heather, and I said, I've only heard of this guy a couple times, but he's told that guy named Lance. Uncle Lance. He told Uncle Lance. Uncle Lance Wallnow. And when that took place, I said, okay, then why am I here? And he said, because I've called you to intercede and pray. That's part of your anointing, Joseph, which, by the way, the Lord's having me do more and more of. And the encounters have been getting strong in my life again. I'm having unique prophetic encounters right now, almost on the daily, because I'm praying, I'm interceding for you. As you're here, please repost this right now. I have so much to get into yet. And these are happening. And as it's taking place, I was standing in that tower, and it was in Chicago. And I said, Lord, is America done? Are we going down? Because, that Jezebel-spirited individual was about to get in that lady that was going against 45 at the time. I thought, she might get in. And I said, Lord, is America done? Are we totally over with? And the Spirit of the Lord said to me really firm, he said, no. America has one more round. Has one more round because the young lions are coming. The young lions are coming. And they will not tolerate what other people have tolerated. I still believe they're coming. And sometimes, you see things off in the distance, but I saw that back in 2015. I've seen it before that, but 2015, it became a word from the Lord. I mean, strong. That the young lions are coming, and there's a generation coming, and they won't put up with some of the stupidity that our culture has. Well, you just got to understand there's points of view on things, and they're going to stand up and go, no, give me Jesus, give me liberty, or give me nothing. And they're going to seize the culture one way or the other. America has one more round because the young lions are coming.
Sounding the alarm on a so-called solar superstorm that could, and this is important, underline the word could, eventually wipe out the internet for weeks or even months.
If it were to occur, might take a decade for us to recover. Some of the destruction of communication infrastructure could bring about the end of the internet.
They are hopeful that they can stop this.
Yes.
But this is a real possibility.
Yeah.
That we won't have internet for months.
Months. Okay, let me look right at you. Here's what's going on. I have a burning conviction over this whole issue of false flags. Let me explain. That video we just watched, I believe they're warming us up for an idea. And the idea that they'll probably try to make a reality is sudden blackouts, or suddenly the internet goes down, or things begin to happen. And they say, oh my goodness, it was a solar flare, or it was a near earth flyby, or something catastrophic happened, and therefore the internet's gone. I want to say to you that I believe clearly that this is all a false flag narrative. What they're bringing out right now is a false flag narrative because they want to get ready to do, and by they, I'm talking about the wicked lizard overlord elites, the ones who are the goblin masters trying to cause us all to do what they demand us to do. And you've got all these scummy, sleazy people in leadership areas covering over their malpractice, misdeeds, nefarious activity, filthy behavior, and the like. And you see that they're using wartime profiteering and so many issues to really benefit themselves and cover their tracks. You're seeing deals made that you see all these wicked leaders, such as the Manchurian candidate we have in our scenario right now, and he is indeed working for, bought and paid for by the Red Dragon, and you got all that happening all at the same time. And then they're beginning to talk about this narrative of the climate. They're talking about the narrative of solar flares, and it could knock out the internet. Let me say something about false flags. False flags is absolutely so they can maintain control and keep you under their thumb. If they were to knock out the internet, what would that mean? What would that mean if all of a sudden they said, oh, it was a solar flare, no more internet, and you're out for weeks, days, months, whatever it might be? What does that mean? It means we don't communicate. It means that freedom to speak openly begins to wind down. And if it knocks out internet, that would probably mean self-service. It would probably mean a lot of things. And I just really could see them doing something just like that. No different than when they said, put on the face diaper and take the mark of the beast precursor practice serum for your own good. And now all this proof's coming out, all this evidence is coming out that it was such a scam and it was so dangerous and it was so bad for people. And yet they're like, oh no, wait, there's more. Keep going. Did you know 75% of the United States actually is precursor, mark of the beast? They have the serum rocking and rolling in their system. And you might say, oh, does that mean I've lost my salvation or I'm bad? No, not at all. Not at all. It just means that we got duped by a bunch of wicked scumbags that decided they wanted to run this whole place into the ground for their own nefarious overlord agenda, which is truly based on an Antichrist spirit, so they can run this world and keep it for themselves, which is really their ultimate end anyway. It's the religion of their belief system. They have a religious philosophy. They believe in the climate change. They believe in, knocking off most of humanity so they can have it for their wicked ideology. They believe in mutilation of humanity. They believe in absolute silencing of any dissenting voices to them. Just look in society who you can't talk about. You know, have you ever thought about that? Who are the ones you can't speak about? Who are the ones that it is verboten? You can't say this. You can't talk. It's forbidden to talk about this one or that one. But if you go after that one and go wild slandering this person, boy, that's totally acceptable. Look at what the culture does not allow, and you'll know what a false flag is. A false flag is going to be things like where they begin to knock things out for the purpose of control, to silence their dissenters. The other thing that's a false flag, and this might ruffle some feathers, and let me explain after I make this statement, is how can we call it? It's false flag wars. We're in the middle of wars right now, and I am telling you they were not necessary. Not necessary. And people say, well, I'm for this side, I'm for that side, I'm for this. Look, I'm for God's covenant land. I'm for God's covenant people. That's what I'm for. And you need to be too. We need to side up with the side of the Bible, regardless of how it got started, or if you got some wicked leaders in areas of authority, even in the place where God's covenant land is. Okay, and I'm not saying that's the case. I'm just saying even if it was, or even if there was an under-the-table deal done to get this thing rocking and stir it all up so we can get into WW3, part of the reason they're doing it is so they can begin to usher in their one world, new world order scumbag agenda. It's a false flag. It's a false flag. Now we have to stand with God's covenant land. You got to stand with the truth, and it's the way that it operates. But listen, in the middle of it all, there is still great hope. You got to hear me. There is great hope in Egypt. You say, what do you mean Egypt? What do you mean by that? Well, we know clearly, the book of Exodus, it says so clearly, it was dark in the land of Egypt, but it was light in Goshen. Now, the Spirit of the Lord wants to touch you, wants to move you forward, wants to break you out of a Babylonian captivity that it is marked by false flag narratives. False flags are literally the fireworks of a Babylonian captivity or a Babylonian Luciferian system. And yet in each generation and every time it happened, God intervenes or something takes place. Now, even if it's a false flag battle that has been induced over there, and you're seeing these two entities go at each other to the point that you're seeing protests in our major capital cities, and you see all these foolish individuals allowing it when they didn't when they cracked down on people that stood up for their own government a few years back. And then you see other times where you have whole cities burning back about 3 years ago and nobody put a stop to that. And here's what I want to say. It's all false flags to marshal in an Antichrist agenda. But in each time this happens in civilization and history, as it repeats itself, you got to realize something. Every time there's a remnant, the red church, the blood of Jesus, fire baptized, clear-eyed, clear-minded believers are bought with the blood of the Lamb, and they are there to stand against it. And we are no different. This is your time. And I sense hope on the horizon. I sense life on the horizon.
We meet for the 20th. I hope I will have the pleasure still to be invited for the meeting. When we meet for the 20th Governance Summit, you will use the app like Uber. But not anymore to call some driver, But automatically guided car, a self-driven car, will come to your hotel or wherever you are and will bring you to the airport. No, Los Angeles is one of the cities with the heaviest traffic, who told me in 2030, Los Angeles will be private car-driven free. And this will allow to transform highways into parks and other public spheres.
Now, wouldn't that be nice? Except all of these guys here are going to be in control of it all. In other words, whatever they do or people do at the flip of a switch, cars stop, cars go. This is all part of their 15-minute city scumbag agenda that they want to have everybody get involved with. And they want everybody to celebrate their digital prison as they continue to press their wicked lizard overlord goblin scumbag agenda. Now, these people are evil. They're wicked. But you know what? I do pray for their souls. I pray for them because at the end of the day, when you realize what they're actually struggling with, it's the spirit of Antichrist. It's the spirit of the age. And so I show these things to us because you got to keep in mind, as a matter of fact, you got to keep in mind, I have something I want to tell you. But you got to keep in mind that the Spirit of the Lord wants you to rise above this wicked agenda. And I believe we've got one more round. I believe there's hope, there's light in darkness, and so much we can get into that will cause the darkness to be pushed back and will break out of this containment. I have hope for the coming year, even though there's all kinds of nefarious stuff wanting to rain down and cascade on the people of God and the people of this planet. Let me show you another video from an individual that's over there at the WEF. It's like, I don't know, it's like Peter Pan here. Peter Pan with a message straight out of Neverland wants to give us a thought about how things will go. And they're really marshaling this notion of 15-minute cities, which are really 15-minute ghettos where they want to keep everybody encompassed and captivated, and they do what they're told, and you will own nothing and we will own everything. That's what they're pushing. Now, the reason I'm showing this to you is you need to pay attention to what he's saying. He's saying the rich, those who are elites. Now, I thought the rich were bad, but here they're saying, oh, those who have means, they'll be able to do whatever they want. But the others, they'll travel wherever they want from their couch. Now, let's take a look at this pearl of wisdom right here as this guy begins to break down stuff straight out of Neverland. Hello, everyone. Here we go.
Going to be people of means who are going to travel. And then there's going to be people maybe who of lesser means who might actually be able to use an Oculus or a Magic Leap or some other kind of device to travel to the same place, but from their own couch. But in many ways, wow, it's actually going to create even more distance between those two people. That psychologically, and I think that we've experienced this through social media. In many ways, it's brought people closer in certain ways, but actually created this remarkable divide because it's even more visible, actually, the divide.
But let's not work on that. Let's keep dividing people with, media and technology to the point that they all end up in 15-minute cities. And the rich and the elites can do whatever they want. You know what they really want? They want the world for themselves. That's what their religion is. Their religion is, let's take over, and it's all for us, and that's how it's going to be. And at the end of the day, they want to go to places like, Disneyland with nobody bothering them. They want to go to the Eiffel Tower. Nobody bothers them. They want to go see the sights and be there, and nobody else will be there because the elites will have it and all these super wealthy will have it because remember, you will own nothing and you will love it. And what they're really saying is you'll be in 15-minute cities, you'll be plugged in, and it will be the Matrix. It'll be just like the Matrix movies where people are plugged in and they're utilized for this wicked agenda. Now, in addition to all this and what we're seeing around the world and what we're seeing with this type of population management, let's call it that, which you see already instituted by the Mark of the Beast precursor practice serum, also known as what they began to highly suggest everybody get involved with right at the beginning of the big fake illness that came on the scene. It was real, but the way it was marshaled was also very, very falsified. And you've got to consider all these nuances and things that are happening because there is a great deception afoot. And I've got good news for us today. Now I'm getting into this like I always do because I sense an urgency and a desire to tell you how to stand up to this thug demon. And it is a demon. It's a demon that's trying to change the very essence of our children. It's a demon that's trying to change the very souls of our nation. It's changing things to the point that they re-identify, they recategorize, they re-put things into a different narrative, and they want people to begin to believe it in mass. And it is working in a lot of areas. But I got news for this wicked demon spirit. We're here. We're salt and light, and we are preserving this place. I actually had the Spirit of the Lord speak to me very earlier, even before the broadcast. And the Spirit of the Lord began to minister something to me, and it was very powerful. I felt life again. And I'm saying, Lord, look at the mess that's going on in the world. Look at the culture, the way it's deteriorating. Look at the way people are worshiping filth and perversion, and they're worshiping the mutilation of humanity, and they're worshiping this trash. You're even seeing the elect go down the road where they say, oh man, it just is. What am I supposed to do? It just is what it is. How about you got born again and you traded your life for his life? We didn't get born again to go compromise with the culture. We got born again to be a light in darkness. I feel like Obi-Wan, when he was talking to Anakin, the prophecy said you were supposed to destroy the Sith, not join them, right? Sorry, that was too much. That was pure nerd right there. But I just got to tell you something that God is saying to so many of us. We need to stand up with strength. A little bit of horsepower, a little bit of fire in the tank, and push back against this wicked agenda. And they wouldn't be pushing so hard if they weren't intimidated by the powers of light, by the powers of God, by the light that shines in darkness. And that is you. Listen to me. Together, the body of Christ, those of us that know the hour of our visitation, that know Jesus, we are the majority. We're the number one superpower in the world if we would just wake up to it. Now, there's a lot more I need to tell you about, and that's this. You see how these guys are going down this road, but really, they want to take the world by force. They want the world. You're seeing what's going on in the Middle East right now. You're seeing what's going on in different nations. You're watching superpowers come together. You're watching all of these enemies almost unite for a common goal to destroy red, white, and blue. And we're seeing this on a mass scale. But really, it's all part of the plan. It's all part of the plan. They want to absolutely cause fear, anxiety, and they want people to be lulled to sleep and eventually just say, you know what, why go when the VR experience is so good? I don't need to leave anyway. I'm just going to kind of be plugged in. If you get my meaning, I'll be plugged in and that'll be satisfactory for this. It's going to be all right. I don't need to go anywhere. And I'm telling you, there is a lulling to sleep of the culture. And I haven't even gotten into some of the things regarding what they're doing to the environment, how that's going, what we really need to be doing. When they're saying, when they're talking about, the change and the environment, and all these things that are happening, and, oh no, everything's changing again, and it's up and it's down, and, oh, look what's happening. The whole world is getting ready to burn and all this stuff. I got to tell you something. Do you realize they're inducing that? This whole lie of worshiping creation or worshiping, nature, the whole lie behind it is to get you to believe that there's actually something catastrophically wrong with what's going on. And at the end of the day, it's really not. So they're inducing it to meet their narrative. They're putting stuff into orbit. In other words, they're spraying things out to stop the very rays from the sun. They're putting things in the atmosphere right now. They're altering weather. They've had this technology since like the 60s to begin to alter weather. They're doing all this stuff so they can have the environment bear witness to their very agenda. It's being polluted by the very ones that are saying, stop pollution, stop this stuff. And it's all an agenda because they have a religion, and their religion is absolutely an Antichrist spirit in nature. They worship the spirit of Antichrist. And this is where it's really at, and this is where it's headed. Now, let me talk a little further about this. There is good news in all this too. There's good news. We're looking at the way we see these guys do stuff, and these wicked scumbags and elites that just think, this world is their playground, and really you and I and everybody in this nation and everybody in the nations is really just a giant tax farm for the elites to go and do their wicked, scummy, slimy agendas and really begin to mutilate, pervert our children as these wicked perverts run around and do the things they do. They still need you and I as a tax farm. It's so much like the Matrix. It's like where they hold up a battery and they say, and this is what you're used for, right? They say, they built this thing to control humanity, to turn them into this, and they hold up a battery. We should hold up like a I don't know, like a bank account or something, because that is what it's about, ladies and gentlemen. They want us to be a tax farm to pay for all their wicked agendas. And it's absolutely to take over this planet. It's to take it over and to push people back. Now, I've got news for them. I've got news for those that are down this path. One way or another, Jesus Christ is coming soon. He is coming. He is coming. And the kingdom of darkness has been a losing model from the beginning. It lost in heaven, it lost in the garden, it lost in the Old Testament, and it's losing in the New Testament. And it'll lose dramatically in the book of Revelation. After all these things begin to happen, and then we see the millennial reign of Jesus, guess what? All these scumbag spirits, these thug demon spirits, these agendas from hell that are trying to take over the culture and absolutely dominate your children and your family, the beast and the false prophet and all these things that eventually materialize will be cast straight into the lake of fire. That's coming. They will be cast straight into the lake of fire. But in the meantime, I'm of the persuasion the Antichrist cannot stand up while the ecclesia is here. We're the ecclesia, the called out ones. We're called to be salt and light. That means we're preserving this place. No matter what's going on next, I have a prophetic sense that we have longevity on us and we have time to outrun our enemies, even in the rain. We have time to continue going forward, even if the darkness tries to manifest in this next present season. We're going into a wild time. This next year is going to be absolutely unparalleled, unprecedented, difficult challenges, things that will try to manifest and put everybody into a place of submission to the spirit of Antichrist. But I got to tell you, you're here and the Spirit of God is with you. And we're going to look at some pretty powerful things. Now, the Bible tells us in Romans 8 that all creation, it groans, it's quaking, it's just convulsing really, because it's looking for the manifestation of the sons and daughters of God. And we're starting to see this more and more in our modern time right now. But it's just a sign that we're beginning to recognize that the Lord is returning soon. But you know, even as you're seeing this, they made recent discoveries about several things. Over the last 40 years, they found these giant globs, or could it be chambers, in the earth, about 1,000 kilometers down. We're going to look at that because they may be discovering, get this, hell. They might have discovered hell. And I'm going to show you that. Let's start with this first clip. I want you to see this about things rising up out of the ocean. Watch this.
What is rising from our oceans? I've got to admit, guys, this video right here has me pretty puzzled. I've been getting tagged in this video where this massive land-like object seems to be rising out of the ocean, and many people are asking for my explanation as to what I think this is. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying I don't know exactly what this is. Everything I say here is going to be a guess, but since people keep tagging me, I'm going to give my feedback. So this is quite a sizable object coming out of the ocean here, and obviously it is floating. The best theory that I can come up with as to what this object is a very large pumice stone. You can see the coloration between this stone as well as the texture. Pumice stones are created by volcanoes, and oftentimes volcanoes are found underwater as well, so it wouldn't be too far out of the question for an underwater volcano to be making pumice stone. There have been very large masses of pumice stones as well found in the ocean. This one right here is taken from a satellite. These are clouds right here. This whole entire thing is pumice stone. The only thing that makes me second guess whether or not this is pumice stone is usually when it's found in the ocean. There's smaller sizes like this, not the massive one that we see in that video. People are also saying this could be a tectonic plate, but I don't really see that being the case here. What do you guys think?
It's coming up out of the ocean. It's coming out from the ocean. Now, whatever it is, I believe there's something happening. The earth is quaking, the earth is groaning. Now, there's many more circumstances than this. This is just a sampling of it. Let me show you a video where they began to discover from 40 years ago, these giant, for lack of a better word, earth blobs, they're calling them, or globs within the earth. And over the last 40 years, they've discovered them. They're under the Pacific Ocean, they're under Africa, and they're about 1,000 kilometers down. And people and the scientific community can't quite identify them, and it's hard to identify their density. In other words, what's really in them. And I have some thoughts, and I'm going to go into it today because it's very important that we look at what's going on in the world around us. Remember, we're here to read the signs of the time. We're here to look into what's going on and really try to understand it for biblical prophecy, what's coming, okay? So please, if you would, repost this. Somebody needs to see this. Let's watch this clip.
As you're watching this video, thousands of kilometers beneath your feet, edging on the brink of alien and terrestrial, lies two vast structures with unknown origins. And scientists call them Earth blobs? Wait, did I read that correctly?
Yep, that's it.
These blobs have been a big geologic mystery that researchers believe are having an untold effect on our planet, and it's baffled scientists for over 40 years. So what do we know about them? Well, Earth blobs have picked up a rather unscience-y name because they look sort of blobby with round, soft edges. Scientists call them large, low-shear velocity provinces because waves of energy slow down through these zones. But that's a mouthful, so let's just stick to Earth blobs for now. They're hidden underneath Earth's crust, like really, really deep. At least 1,000 kilometers deep.
1,000 kilometers.
These blobs are so massive that if we move them to Earth's surface, the International Space Station would need to navigate.
Stop the video right here. I want to show you this. So when you're looking at this, you see how big this is. Now, this is a Earth blob, and he's going to comment on this in a moment, but I really want you to get the gist of what we're talking about right now, because what he's really talking about, indeed, is the fact that there is these giant things, these blobs, but they don't know the density. So when you look at how big it is, if you pull it out of the earth and you bring it up, what are you seeing? Something that goes up so high, the International Space Station, which is here, would have to go around it. So it's 2 times as high as the elevation of the International Space Station. Now, I have some comments and real thoughts about what this probably is. So let's continue.
Them. So to better understand these gigantic structures, we need to journey into the center of the Earth. They begin where Earth's mantle meets the outer molten core.
Wow.
In the 1970s, scientists discovered that one of the blobs sits under the Pacific Ocean, while the other one sits under Africa and part of the Atlantic Ocean.
You see it?
So we know their general location, and we know that these regions are different from the surrounding mantle material because seismic waves move through these massive regions slower than their surroundings.
Wow.
But there are still many unanswered questions. No one knows for sure where they came from, how long they've been around, or even what their role is on the planet. But, you know, scientists love a good mystery hidden deep within the Earth's crust. So it's been an ongoing debate ever since they were discovered 40 years ago, with a whole range of ideas trying to explain their impact. One study has described them as plumes of hot, upwelling rock that connect to surface volcanoes to form island chains like Hawaii and Iceland. Another has speculated that the blobs are disrupting Earth's magnetic field, and others have suggested that the blobs are connected to supervolcanoes that at one time caused extinction events. So yeah, the ideas run from the generally benign to the apocalyptic. And that's because scientists can't come to a unifying conclusion. It's impossible to reach these depths in one piece. Temperature and pressure would kill you. Scientists have to rely on a multitude of techniques to tell us what the interior looks like, and maybe even explain how these mysterious regions affect our planet. One way is with seismic tomography, a technique that helps us look below the crust by tracking and calculating seismic waves.
So interesting.
This was how scientists actually discovered the blobs in the first place.
40 years ago.
But while the method revealed where the blobs are and how large they are, it can't really tell us much about their density. So one researcher turned to a new technique
They can't tell about their
called
density. They can't tell about their density, so they're turning to this technology called tidal topography, or tomography. That's the right word for it. And they're just going to begin to search and find the density the best they can this way. But really, they're speculating. But let's keep going.
Tomography to peer under Earth's crust. It uses sensitive GPS measurements to track Earth's body tides and can give us a better gauge of the blob's density. Preliminary results showed that the blobs were pretty dense and can be composed of iron and have similarities to primordial material, while geochemists are analyzing the chemical composition of lava samples to help determine what role blobs could play on volcanoes. So evidently, more research is needed to demystify the blobs before we make any conclusions. What's important to keep in mind is that each of the earlier ideas may present a different picture of Earth's inner workings and the role the blobs can play on our planet, which is why these regions are so scientifically interesting. They can tell us very different things about the planet, from its earliest beginnings to the magnetic field to even supervolcanoes. But until Brendan Fraser figures out a way to journey back to the center of the Earth, we'll use the techniques at our disposal to reveal the mysterious blobs wrapped around the heart of our planet. Come on, Brendan, we're counting on you.
Yeah,
you like this episode?
We're counting on you. That's enough of that. But here, let me say this to you really clearly. I want to look right at you. Let me look at you. So they're scientifically making light of it, looking at things, and it is an anomaly. It is something they do not understand, but they're trying to just figure it all out. And here's what I want to say about it. I believe it's likely, even very possible. Now, we can't land on a full-out conclusion at it just yet, but it's possible those giant blobs are caverns. Caverns. And you say, why would that be the case? Well, because the Word of God tells us really clearly, that hell is in the belly of the earth, or it's in the depths of the earth. It's actually physically in the earth. And I know a lot of people talk about, oh, there's metaphorical hell. It's all these things. No, I'm telling you, hell is very real. I'm going to give you a few scriptures real quick. When it talks about this, that it's an eternal fire in Jude 1:7, I'm going to rattle off a couple of them to you, that it's filled with unquenchable fire. And it's interesting how all these things want to come up, and as they're coming up, they are full of volcanic molten rock, okay, unquenchable fire that is just churning upon itself down under the surface of the earth. And you're seeing this happen. It's an everlasting fire, Matthew 25:41, a fire that shall not be quenched, Mark 9:43-48. It goes on to this, and you recognize Jesus. It says this in Matthew 12:40. He says, so shall the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights. Where? In the heart of the earth. When Jesus went down, he went to the heart of the earth, or the belly of the earth. And you recognize this, Ephesians 4:9. Now he that ascended, what is it? But he that also descended first into the lower parts of the earth, he first descended before he ascended. So he went into the earth. It's an interesting process when you consider this, or you're looking at it. And Amos chapter 9 and verse 2, it really gives some insight into, again, the location of hell. Now, I'm saying this for a reason. It says, though they dig down to hell. Amos chapter 9, verse 2, though they dig into hell. Isaiah chapter 14, verse 9, it says hell from beneath. It's talking about hell below us, okay? And then it goes into Isaiah 14, verse 15, talking about Lucifer and the devil, really prophetically. Yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit, down, right? You recognize all these things. Ezekiel 31:17, they also went down into hell with him. And then it goes into even talking about angels in 2 Peter 2. It talks about all of this, and you realize the bottom pit, or down in the pit, is in the earth. Now, what am I talking about? Why am I bringing this out? Well, the reason we're talking about it is because I believe there's a manifestation of something that's in the earth, and the earth right now is quaking because we're in a prophetic time. We're in a time where the spirit of prophecy is saying, hey, pay attention. There are things happening. The earth is shaking and quaking. I believe they discovered hell. It's very likely. They discovered hell. You recognize when it talks about Lazarus and the rich man, that story of Lazarus and the rich man, and there's a big gulf set between the two. And you see that hell then was enlarged. One scripture talks about hell has been enlarged. I believe that's after Jesus went down, emptied it out, and led captivity captive from Abraham's bosom, or paradise, in that location, led them out, and then hell enlarged and took over what was formerly paradise, or Abraham's bosom, and the captives were no longer there. Saints from the Old Testament who were in paradise, I believe they went then to heaven, the gates of heaven, right? And so we're looking at all this, and you start asking the question, okay, so where are we? Why is this stuff being discovered in the last 40 years? What is this really about? Well, what it's really about is the fact that there is a lot to consider when you realize that we are coming into the last of the last days. We truly are in the last hours. And in the last hours, things will be revealed. We recognize this. You know, my dear, dear friend, Rick Renner, just went over to where they verified over in Turkey that they have discovered Noah's Ark. Discovered it. And I've done a program with Rick on it. Rick's done some great stuff, but I'm going to do another one with him soon where we talk about how they discovered Noah's Ark. Okay, there's a lot of these type of things. My personal belief is not only has it been verified that they found Noah's Ark, I believe, and this is me being prophetic right now, wow, I need to go to the board. I'm going to go to the board for a second. I'm going to come back to this. I'm going to prophesy. Here we go. I sense something right now. I sense something. You know, we're here, we're in our studio, and thank you, partners, for making this a reality. This studio is magnificent, but let me talk about this. Noah's Ark. The government over there has said that they discovered it. They're saying, we found it. We verified it. Now, it could be a nice little economic idea for them. There's a lot of reasons people verify these things. But they've said they found Noah's Ark over there. So that is discovered. Okay? They discovered Noah's Ark. So what's the big deal about them discovering Noah's Ark? Well, I believe that that is a sign that we're coming into what? The days of Noah. Man, I feel the Spirit of God. I feel the power of God on me right now over this topic. God is talking. He's talking to you. He's saying, make ready, prepare, know the hour of your visitation. Know that God is with you. Know that Jesus is coming soon. But there's a sign in these things, and we got to read the signs of the times, but they've discovered the location, right? And they've found it a long time ago, but really it's been now publicly recognized by the government that that's where it is. But here's the word I want to give you. This is number 1. 2, I feel an unction right now. I'm going to prophesy. I sense by the Spirit of the Lord that they are going to discover and announce. They're going to make a big old announcement. Let's say it a better way. They're going to proclaim. What are they going to proclaim? That they have found the Ark of the Covenant. I'm telling you right now, they will indeed make an announcement that they have found the Ark of the Covenant. And I believe this is going to greatly mess with some religious ideologies, theological things. I believe that they're going to find the Ark of the Covenant. It's a big thing to state. I feel this way the same way when I wrote on the whiteboard. Wow. They're going to either say they found the Ark of the Covenant, or you're going to see the Ark of the Covenant dramatically back in the news. There's going to come a special announcement about the Ark of the Covenant in the news. And this is a last days sign. Listen to me. I believe this is very important. Now, whether or not they find it is clearly so. In my spirit, man, I feel like they're going to find it. Like they're going to say, here it is. This is it. Or it's just going to hit the news and it's going to become such a talking point. It's going to be a talking point. And in a sense, what I feel about it is it's going to resolve an argument or a conflict. And the Lord's going to do it in a way to demonstrate something, saying, I am he that lives, who was and is to come. There's something about this that's prophetic, and it's a last days sign that I believe is coming. And it's about the Ark of the Covenant. The Ark of the Covenant is coming forward. Now, you guys remember in 2021, if you remember this, now we'll have to maybe show a clip of this or something, but back in 2021, okay, during that season, and it was February, where I gave this word about, wow, man, I have a prophetic unction on me right now. And this prophetic unction, I believe, has to do with the fact that they're not only going to talk about the discovery of this or find it, but back then, that's when they had in Ethiopia an artifact in an area called Axum. And when they were doing this, these people were defending what they thought was an artifact there, but that was during the same time when the Spirit of the Lord said to me, Because you remember that season, right? What happened and who was not sitting in a house that's white and who was not doing certain things, and the argument and the way people said, no, it's going to be great. These things are happening. And I heard the Spirit of the Lord say, the ark has been stolen. The ark has been stolen. Just like in the story of 1 Samuel, where the two wicked, reprobate, scumbag sons of Eli decided that they were going to continue misbehaving in the temple of God and doing all the wrong things in Shiloh, and then suddenly war breaks out, and they say, we need to get the Ark of the Covenant, and they came and got the two wicked sons and the Ark, and they brought it to the battle line against the Philistines, and when this took place, the bad guys shouted, the people of God shouted, and when the Ark came into the camp, it shook the ground from the level of shouting that took place. But it was a carnal, non-spirit-filled shout. It didn't have the Spirit of God on it. The breath of God was not in the shout. But when that happened, it said they went to battle, lost the battle, those two sons were killed, and they took the Ark of the Covenant. They took the Ark. It was stolen. Now, there was a whole narrative after that, but I'm telling you, when that took place in our nation, on a governmental stage, if you pick up my meaning, okay? At the end of that moment, suddenly we went into 21, and in February of that same year, over in Ethiopia, the area where they had an artifact, I don't know that it was really the Ark or any of that, but they feel like it was, or they suspect it was. I don't know one way or the other. I don't really think it was. But when they went there, they went and raided this area, and they about 800 people lost their life, and they speculate that whatever this artifact was, it was stolen from the temple, from guys who give their whole life to guard this particular artifact, okay? It was stolen. You say, what was stolen? The ark was. The ark was stolen. Now, this is interesting, too, and I gave a prophetic word about this way back in this same time about how it was stolen. This is during this deal here over in Axum and in Ethiopia, and the ark was stolen. And I believe this went in line with our... Okay? Let's just put this guy's name there. That's what we're talking about, okay? And this took place, that happened, and then an interesting thing took place also. Spirit of the Lord spoke to me about something else, and then he drew my attention. I know this is very symbolic, prophetic statements I'm making, but at that same time in that same year, the ark was stolen. That happened. I felt these things happening in parallel to what the Spirit of the Lord was saying about not only our nation, but the nations, and the way the Antichrist spirit was trying to dominate and rule things. And then suddenly, I also had a word of hope that took place, because if you remember, there was a guy named Shackleton. Remember Shackleton? And he took a ship called the Endurance out into the Antarctic. It got frozen in the ice. It sank into the ice. And then 100 years later, suddenly, this same year, this same season, guess what? They discovered the Endurance. They discovered it. It was in the ice. It was in the water. They went down. They found it. They found great, wonderful photos of the exact brand of the ship, the Endurance. They took a photograph of the title of it right on the ship itself, under the sea, in the Antarctic ice, down at the bottom of the ocean. It was abandoned. Shackleton left it. His men. It's a miraculous story and a miraculous turnaround. And suddenly, from that place, from that scenario, they found the Endurance. And I'm telling you right now by the word of the Lord, the ark is going to make the news again. And it has endurance. It has this word of the Lord on it. And I don't know why the Lord spoke to me through these absolute signs to our culture. But when Shackleton's ship was found, the Endurance that was lost, I believe the Lord is saying, the ark will come back, it will take endurance, and your endurance will be discovered, and it will begin to be a return of things that were even founded in this nation 100 years ago. 100 years ago. There's a 100-year promise that's coming back, and I believe a sign to this will be that the ark will be talked about majorly in the news in the days to come, if not completely discovered. But watch for the sign of the Ark of the Covenant. The actual Ark of the Covenant is going to make more and more news and headlines, if not completely discovered, maybe in a secret area in the Temple Mount or somewhere in that area. That may happen. Recently, we've seen a dramatic increase in partnership in this ministry. And I want to talk to you about it just very briefly. And the reason is because every day we go live or we're broadcasting, and there are people who pretend to be us, or there's different ways people are contacted. And I simply want to give you the safe and clear route for how to become a partner and stand with this ministry. Number one, you only go to josephz.com to become a partner. Secondly, you can text that keyword give to 719-259-0029. The reason I bring this up is because partners are such a vital part of this ministry. And when you become a partner, first of all, you're going to hear from us. We're going to call you, we're going to celebrate with you, and we'll be praying with you all the time. As a matter of fact, we have quite an interaction going with our partner family. And if you want to do that today, we welcome you. Welcome to the family if you want to do it today. I encourage you to pray about it, because I believe the Lord is calling God-appointed people to stand with this ministry. You can also simply give a one-time gift, stand with the ministry. All of the information for doing so is available at josephz.com or right here on the screen. And I want to encourage you to do so. Our team will call you, they will stand with you, and they will be praying over you. I simply wanted to say this today because we are looking forward to building so many more avenues of reaching people. Remember, we're calling it 1 million to reach 1 billion. Help us raise up 1 million clear-eyed, clear-minded reformers to reach 1 billion for the kingdom of God. Please consider becoming a partner today. We would just love to welcome you to our partner family. Let's go win the world together for Jesus. We are living in a last days culture, and you've got to understand something. Both God and the kingdom of darkness are territorial, and you are the hinge pin. You are absolutely the emissary, the free moral agent of permission to give access to light or darkness. I'm Joseph Z, and I recently had the Spirit of the Lord speak to me to write this book, Servants of Fire. It is a last days prayer, intercession, and prophecy manual for how to rise up, activate the forces of heaven to work on your behalf. We go into so many things in this book that I know God spoke to me about from His Word that's going to greatly impact you and take you forward. The world is crazy. Things are getting wild, but you can overcome with the spiritual forces of heaven right from the manual that's written in this book. We go into everything from dealing with strange encounters, wicked spirits, how to push back authorities that are of dominion of evil and take territory in Jesus. I got to tell you, this book is a must-have for your library, a must-have. It will navigate you right through these difficult days, and you will see victory, you will see results. Did you know most Christians, most believers have everything they need? All they need is a revelation of what they have. And this book will provide that for you. You need it. I'm telling you, it's a now word, a revelation. I'm Joseph Z. I hope you pick up Servants of Fire for your future and your benefit today.